The sun rose slowly over Earth's northern plains, casting long shadows over a small orphanage that sat on the edge of a quiet city. The building looked ordinary at first glance. Aged walls, dusty windows, and a large courtyard where the children played. But inside, life buzzed with energy. The orphanage had seen hard times, but it was full of laughter, chatter, and tiny hands holding crayons, pencils, and worn-out toys. Ms. Lena, a young teacher with sharp eyes and a calm voice, moved from room to room. She checked homework, tied shoelaces, and soothed quarrels. Despite the hardships, she had a way of making each child feel important, loved, and safe. Among the children, one boy stood out. Kiran. He was quiet, thin, and observant. His dark eyes seemed older than his small face. He always noticed things others did not. The flicker of a shadow, the distant hum of engines, or a stranger watching from afar. That morning, the children ran freely in the courtyard, playing tag and laughing. But Kiran stayed near the edge, staring at the horizon. Something was different. The sky had a strange hue, a faint green shimmer that made his heart thump faster. He pointed to it. "Look, Ms. Lena," he said. She looked but smiled, thinking it was just a morning light. "It's nothing, Kiran. Go join your friends." But Kiran didn't move. His instincts told him something was coming. He had felt it before, in dreams he could never explain, and today, the feeling was stronger. Far beyond the orphanage, in the cold blackness of space, a fleet of alien ships moved with deadly precision. They were silent, huge, and shaped like jagged shards of metal that reflected the distant sun. For months, they had been observing Earth quietly. Today, their commander had decided it was time. Back at the orphanage, life went on as usual. Children squealed as they ran through the playground, swinging on old metal swings. Ms. Lena blew a whistle to gather them for morning lessons. She tried to keep everything normal, but Kiran's worried eyes kept catching hers. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. It was faint at first, almost like the sound of distant thunder, but it grew louder with each passing second. Birds scattered from trees, flapping in panic. The children stopped and looked around. "What is that sound?" one of them asked, clutching his toy robot. Kiran didn't answer. He just stared wide-eyed as the sky began to crack open with strange lights. Then came the first shadow, a massive silhouette passing over the orphanage, blocking the sun. It was not a plane or a storm. It was too big, too fast. "Everyone inside now!" Ms. Lena shouted. She grabbed the nearest children and ran toward the building. Panic spread quickly as more of the massive shapes appeared overhead, casting darkness over the courtyard. The children screamed, and Ms. Lena fought to keep them together. She was trained for emergencies, but nothing had prepared her for this. The aliens struck without warning. Explosions rocked the city in the distance. Dust and smoke filled the air. Glass shattered and the ground trembled. The children huddled together inside the orphanage, their tiny bodies shaking with fear. Ms. Lena tried to calm them, but even her voice trembled. Kiran presses back against the wall, peeking to the cracked door. He could see the alien ships descending. They were unlike anything humans had ever imagined, gigantic, metallic, with glowing red eyes that scanned the city below. They moved with terrifying speed and accuracy. The humans around them were panicked, running, shouting, trying to hide. Then one of the aliens fired a beam at the city streets. Buildings crumbled. Cars exploded. Smoke and fire painted the morning sky red. Kiran felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He had never seen so much destruction. "Ms. Lena, what do we do?" a small girl whispered, clutching his arm. "We survive. That's all we can do. Stay close to me," Ms. Lena said, her voice firm despite her fear. Outside, the sound of chaos grew louder. Human defense forces scrambled jets, but they were too slow. Alien ships swooped down, avoiding every attack, and continued their relentless advance. People screamed as their neighborhoods were destroyed. In the orphanage's basement, Ms. Lena gathered the children. She lit candles and tried to keep them calm. The sound of distant explosions shook the walls. Kiran sat quietly, observing every detail. He noticed a pattern in the way the aliens moved, how they avoided certain areas, how they seemed to communicate silently with each other. He whispered to Ms. Lena, They are not random. They are organized. They know what they're doing. Ms. Lena nodded. I know, Kiran, but we are together. We will protect each other. Hours passed. The sky outside was a burning orange, filled with smoke and alien silhouettes. The city was in ruins. Sirens wailed. Buildings fell, and everywhere, humans were either running or fighting a losing battle. Then came the first knock on the basement door. Ms. Lena froze. A stranger's voice called from outside. Are there children here? Are you alive? It was another teacher from a nearby orphanage. They had survived the first wave and were gathering survivors. Ms. Lena hesitated but opened the door. Together, they led the children to the damaged streets, avoiding alien patrols and explosions. Every step was dangerous. The streets were littered with rubble. Fires burned in every direction. Kiran noticed the aliens moving strategically, like they were searching for something specific, something beyond random destruction. Finally, they reached a temporary safe zone, a large, underground shelter built for emergencies. Families, soldiers, and survivors crowded in. Exhausted, dirty, and scared, they sat together in silence. Kiran looked around at the adults. Some cried, some sat in disbelief, and some whispered about revenge. Humanity had never faced such an enemy. He thought of the orphanage, of the children still trapped in the rubble outside. A fire of determination sparked in his heart. He whispered to Ms. Lena, "We can't just hide. We have to fight back. We have to protect everyone." Ms. Lena shook her head. "Not yet, Kiran. First we survive. Then we fight." Outside, the alien ships hovered over the city, scanning for signs of life. They had come to Earth for a reason, and nothing would stop them from finding it. But deep inside the shelter, humans were already thinking about survival, about resistance, about hope. The day Earth's orphanage was bombed had begun. It was a day that would change humanity forever. Children had cried, adults had feared, and the skies had burned with fire and destruction. But amidst the chaos, the spark of human courage had already ignited, a spark that would grow into a flame of total resistance. Kiran looked at the other children, some sleeping from exhaustion, some staring blankly, trying to comprehend the horror. He clenched his fists. He did not yet understand how, but he knew one thing. Humanity would not give up. Not now, not ever. And so, in the dark underground shelter, while the world above burned, the first whispers of hope, strategy, and rebellion began to take shape. It was the unexpected turning point, the moment when ordinary humans realized they would be tested in ways they had never imagined. No one knew the full scale of the alien threat yet. No one knew the sacrifices, the battles, or the pain that lay ahead. But one thing was certain. From this day onward, Earth and its children would never be the same. The orphanage was gone, but humanity's spirit survived. And in the heart of Kiran, a quiet determination grew, a promise that one day, humans would rise again, stronger than ever, facing total war with courage that no alien fleet could ever destroy. The air smelled of smoke and fire. The city lay in ruins, and the sky glowed with an eerie green light from the alien ships hovering above. From the underground shelter, the humans could hear the distant sounds of destruction, buildings collapsing, alarms blaring, the cries of the injured. Kiran peeked through a crack in the shelter wall. His heart raced as he watched alien patrols moving methodically through the streets. They were not just destroying for fun. They were searching, scanning, and calculating every move. Every human they found would be eliminated. "Is it safe to go outside?" whispered a young girl, clutching a ragged doll. Ms. Lena shook her head. "Not yet. We wait. We watch. We survive." Kiran's eyes followed one alien soldier, massive and armored in black metallic plating. Its head had no face, only a glowing red visor. Scanning the rubble, it paused near a collapsed building and seemed to sense life inside. Kiran swallowed hard. If they discovered the shelter, everything would be lost. The humans in the shelter knew they had no choice. Hiding alone would not protect everyone forever. They needed to understand the enemy, learn their weaknesses, and fight back. And so, small groups of volunteers began venturing into the city, moving like shadows, observing the aliens carefully. Kiran wanted to go too. He felt restless, like his body would burst if he stayed hidden. But Ms. Lena held his hand firmly. "You stay with the children," she said. "We need you safe. The adults will do the scouting." Still, Kiran's mind raced. He remembered the way the aliens moved, how precise they were, how they communicated without sound. He realized they were not invincible. Every machine, every strategy had a flaw. And if humans could find it, maybe they had a chance. Outside, the first human counterattack began. Small jets roared across the sky, firing missiles at the alien ships. But the aliens were fast, dodging effortlessly, their shields reflecting explosions. One ship fired a pulse that sent the jet crashing into a building. The humans screamed in panic. It was clear that traditional weapons could not match alien technology. Back in the shelter, adults whispered plans. They could not wait for the military. Earth's forces had been scattered and crushed in the first strike. Ordinary humans, teachers, shopkeepers, and children's caretakers would have to adapt, improvise, and fight in ways they never imagined. Suddenly, a loud rumble shook the ground. Dust and debris fell from the ceiling. Kiran grabbed a young child to protect her, shielding her as the tremor passed. From a crack in the wall, he saw alien drones patrolling, scanning every corner of the city for survivors. "They're everywhere," he whispered to Ms. Lena. "If we don't act, they'll find us all." Ms. Lena's face was tight with worry, but she remained calm. "Then we act carefully, slowly. We do not rush. Panicking will kill us faster than them." Kiran watched as a group of humans moved out of the shelter, armed with whatever they could find. Old rifles, makeshift explosives, even metal pipes. They slipped through the streets like ghosts, striking at alien patrols silently, retreating before the enemy could react. Every small victory brought hope, but also fear. One wrong move, and they could all be destroyed. Hours passed, and the city burned on all sides. The aliens seemed unstoppable, but humans began to notice small things. Patterns in alien movement, delays in their reactions, and weak spots in their shields. Kiran observed silently, storing every detail in his mind. That night, the shelter was restless. Children whispered about monsters in the sky. Adults argued over strategy. Kiran lay awake, staring at the cracks in the ceiling where dust fell like tiny rain. He felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. Humanity was not entirely helpless. They could fight, but it would cost everything. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the shelter. The walls rattled, and a fireball lit up the entrance. Alien patrols had found a nearby group of humans, and the fight had begun. The screams of the wounded echoed through the shelter, making hearts pound faster. Ms. Lena quickly organized everyone. She instructed the children to stay low, crawl to safe corners, and stay silent. Kiran helped guide the younger ones, his small hand steady despite his fear. He realized something important. Courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to act in spite of it. Outside, the fighting was intense. Humans used every trick they could imagine, ambushes, traps, and explosive devices. The aliens were powerful, but not perfect. Kiran noticed a pattern. Their shields only worked when they were in formation. If a human could separate one alien from the group, it became vulnerable. "Ms. Lena," Kiran whispered, "we can fight them if we divide them. They are strong together, weak alone." Ms. Lena nodded slowly. "Perhaps you are right, Kiran, but we cannot risk children in the front lines. We need a plan, not a rush." The night grew darker, but the fires from the destroyed city painted the sky in deep red and orange. The sounds of war were everywhere. Alien shrieks, human shouts, explosions, and the distant roar of crumbling buildings. Kiran stayed alert, observing, thinking, learning. He had become more than just a frightened child. He was a witness, a strategist, a spark of hope. Suddenly, a new threat emerged. Alien drones, faster and smaller than before, entered the streets in swarms. They were searching for survivors, moving with terrifying intelligence. Humans who had once thought they could hide were now being hunted down. Kiran froze as a drone hovered near the shelter entrance. It scanned the ground, glowing red lights moving back and forth. Ms. Lena held him tight, whispering, "Stay still. Don't breathe too loud." The drone paused, then moved on, sensing no threat. Kiran exhaled slowly. The city was alive with danger, but human courage was alive too. Dawn, after a long and restless night, survivors gathered outside the shelter. They had lost friends, neighbors, and family, but they were still alive. For the first time, the humans saw that the aliens were not invincible. They had weaknesses, and every small victory counted. Kiran looked at the adults planning the next move. We have to learn more about them. Study them. Watch them. They can be beaten, he said quietly. Ms. Lena smiled faintly. Yes, Kiran, but we have to be smart. Total war has begun, and every choice we make matters. One wrong move could cost us everything. Outside, the city was a battlefield. Alien ships hovered silently, while humans moved like shadows, striking, retreating, and surviving. The first strike had caused panic, but it also awakened something within humanity, a spark of determination, a desire to fight back, and a promise that they would not surrender. Kiran stood with Ms. Lena at the edge of the safe zone. He looked at the burning horizon and whispered to himself, "They think they can destroy us. They are wrong. We will fight. We will survive. We will rise." And so, the first strike ended, not with victory, but with understanding. Humanity had seen the enemy's strength, but they had also seen its weaknesses. The panic of the first hours had given way to careful planning, courage, and a quiet rebellion. The war for Earth had truly begun, and no one would forget the day the aliens came to test humanity, and found that even the smallest humans could fight back. The morning sun was weak, its light struggling through smoke and dust that hung heavy over the ruined city. The once thriving streets of Earth were now a battlefield. Buildings lay in rubble, vehicles burned, and the distant wails of sirens mixed with the hum of alien engines. Kiran sat on a cracked wall, watching the horizon with keen eyes. He had grown calmer in the chaos, but the fear remained buried deep beneath determination. He studied the alien patrols carefully, noticing the patterns had become clearer after the previous day's attack. He whispered to Ms. Lena, "We know their weakness now. They are strong in numbers, but one at a time, they are vulnerable." Ms. Lena nodded. Her face was smeared with soot, but her eyes burned with courage. "Then we divide them. Small groups. Hit and run. Confuse them, and we can survive longer." Outside, small human teams moved through the ruined streets like shadows. They were armed with whatever they could find. Old rifles, homemade explosives, and even metal rods. Some were civilians who had never fought before, but fear had sharpened their instincts. Every step was a risk. Every shadow could hide death. Kiran followed silently with a small group of older children who could run fast and stay hidden. Their job was to observe, record, and report alien movements to the adults. Kiran noticed something strange. The aliens seemed intelligent, almost calculating their approach, but they relied heavily on coordination. One ship separated from the others, and its shield flickered for a fraction of a second. That was all the opening humans needed. "Wait for my signal," whispered a man named Marco, a former firefighter turned resistance fighter. "We strike together, fast, and vanish before they know what hit them." The humans set their traps carefully. They used overturned cars, debris, and old wires to create ambush points. Kiran watched as the first alien drone approached, its red eyes scanning the street. Marco's team waited, hearts pounding, breath shallow. "Now!" Marco shouted. Explosives ignited, sending a shockwave that knocked the alien off balance. Humans jumped from hiding, striking with metal rods and guns. The alien fought back, but it was alone, and humans had learned the pattern. With coordinated strikes, they disabled its legs, and it fell to the ground with a loud metallic crash. Kiran felt a surge of hope. They had done it. They had won a small victory. But victory came at a cost. One member of Marco's team fell under the alien's last attack. Humans mourned silently, but there was no time to grieve. The war had begun, and every moment counted. News of the successful strike spread quickly among survivors. Small shelters communicated through radios and messengers, coordinating their movements. Humanity, scattered and untrained, began learning the art of war through sheer necessity. Kiran's mind raced as he observed. He began drawing maps of alien patrols in the dust, noting weak points, response times, and shield patterns. His eyes were sharp, catching every detail. The timing of their pulses, the rhythm of their movements, even the way they reacted to human explosions. In one building, Ms. Lena and other adults strategized with survivors from nearby neighborhoods. They planned small raids on alien supply units, scavenging resources, and luring patrols into traps. It was dangerous, but the humans were becoming clever. Every trap worked as a learning point. Every success fueled courage, and every failure taught caution. The aliens, for all their power, underestimated human adaptability. They were precise and fast, but humans had creativity and unpredictability. Where a ship expected fear, humans responded with cunning. Where a patrol expected surrender, humans ambushed. And where the aliens thought they could dominate, they found resistance that grew bolder every hour. One night, Kiran led a small group to observe a larger alien supply ship moving through the city. He remembered Marco's lesson: never attack alone. Watch, learn, and strike when the moment is right. The group hid in the shadows, breathing silently as the ship glided over the street. Kiran noticed a pattern. The ship paused at certain intervals, its sensors glowing brighter for a moment. That was the weak spot. Now, he whispered. Humans sprung into action. Explosives ignited near the ship's legs, and a team of fighters rushed in with makeshift weapons. The alien reacted too late. Smoke filled the street, and sparks flew as metal bent and cracked. Humans had struck again. The city was changing. Humans, once terrified and disorganized, were becoming a force to reckon with. Every skirmish built experience, and every victory, no matter how small, strengthened their resolve. Kiran felt a strange thrill. He had never imagined himself leading observations or understanding alien technology, but necessity had forced him to grow. He was no longer just a child hiding from fear. He was a part of the resistance, a spark of humanity's courage. Meanwhile, Ms. Lena worked tirelessly. She tended to the injured, planned supply routes, and encouraged the children to keep hope alive. She knew that survival depended not just on fighting, but on maintaining morale. Even when everything seems lost, she reminded the group, we have each other. That is our strength. As humans learned to fight, the aliens adapted too. They began to set traps, patrol in unpredictable patterns, and increase their drone numbers. Each encounter became more dangerous, forcing humans to innovate further. Kiran noticed that the aliens relied on speed and group coordination. They could be defeated if divided and isolated. One afternoon, humans set up a trap in a narrow street surrounded by destroyed buildings. Using decoy signals and sounds, they lured patrol of 4 alien soldiers into the alley. Then, hidden fighters attacked from multiple sides, hitting them where they were weakest. 2 were disabled immediately. The 3rd fell after a struggle, and the 4th fled. Kiran watched, wide-eyed, taking notes. We can do this, he thought. We can fight back if we stay clever and brave. But victory always carried a price. Many humans were injured or lost. Supplies were scarce, and fatigue was constant. Hunger gnawed at them, and sleep was a luxury. Yet, with each day, their coordination improved. Humans discovered that their unpredictability, their ability to think, improvise, and adapt, was their greatest weapon. At night, Kiran and Ms. Lena would sit together, reviewing observations and planning the next moves. They marked weak points in alien patrols, timing patterns, and strategic locations for ambushes. One day, Kiran said softly, we will turn this around completely. One day, they will regret coming here. Ms. Lena nodded. We fight smart, not just with strength. Humans are clever. We adapt. We survive. And one day we win. The first weeks of resistance transformed the survivors. Ordinary people became fighters. Teachers, engineers, and children contributed in ways no one had expected. The spirit of humanity shone brightest in the darkest hours. Every small victory, every clever trap, and every life saved strength and hope. Even Kiran, a small boy in the chaos, had begun to feel the power of courage. He realized that bravery was not just about fighting. It was about observation, strategy, and determination. Humanity's strength was not in weapons or numbers, but in their will to survive and adapt. And as the sun set behind the burning city, the humans understood one truth. The aliens were strong, fast, and deadly, but humanity had begun to fight back. The war was far from over. The aliens would return stronger, smarter, and more relentless. But humans had tasted victory, learned the enemy's weaknesses, and discovered their own courage. The spark of rebellion had ignited, and it would not be extinguished. Kiran stood on a rooftop, looking at the burning horizon. Smoke filled the sky, and alien ships patrolled above, but he felt hope. They thought they could destroy us in hours, he whispered. But they were wrong. We are not just survivors. We are fighters, and we will show them what humanity is capable of. Below him, humans moved through the city like shadows, silent but deadly. The first strike of panic had passed. Now humanity was awake. Now humanity was fighting back. And in the hearts of every survivor, a new determination burned, a promise that no alien fleet could destroy the spirit of Earth. The city that had once been peaceful was now unrecognizable. Smoke rose in thick black clouds from shattered buildings, and the streets were filled with rubble and scorched vehicles. Alien patrols moved constantly above, their glowing red visors scanning for life. But humans were no longer running in fear. They were ready to fight back. Kiran stood at the edge of a ruined skyscraper, overlooking the chaos below. His small frame was tense, eyes scanning every movement. The aliens had underestimated humans before. Now, they would learn that survival had made humans clever, bold, and merciless when necessary. "Are you ready, Kiran?" Ms. Lena asked, her voice steady despite the tension. She had a small group of older children and young adults with her, armed with whatever weapons they had managed to scavenge. Kiran nodded. "Yes, this is the moment. If we want to survive, we have to fight together." Below, human teams moved through the streets in careful coordination. Each team had a specific target. Some attacked alien supply units, others sabotaged communications, and some laid traps for patrols. Smoke, grenades, fire, and clever decoys made the streets a dangerous place for the aliens. The aliens were fast, but humans had learned their patterns. One massive patrol ship moved over a crowded plaza, expecting humans to scatter. Instead, humans were ready. Explosives hidden beneath rubble detonated, sending sparks and metal flying. A group of fighters ambushed the isolated patrol, striking at its weak points. The alien fell with a loud metallic crash. Kiran watched, heart pounding. He had never imagined seeing the humans fight with such coordination. Ordinary teachers, shopkeepers, and children had become warriors. Every victory, no matter how small, strengthened their resolve. But victory came at a cost. Fires spread, and the aliens retaliated with precision. Drones and smaller ships swept through the streets, destroying buildings and killing anyone in sight. Humans who had survived previous attacks were now facing full-scale alien tactics. "Keep moving," Marco shouted, leading a team through a narrow alley. "We hit them fast, then disappear. Don't get caught in the open." The streets became a deadly chessboard. Every step required strategy. Every move could mean life or death. Humans had begun using the environment to their advantage. Collapsed buildings, overturned vehicles, and underground tunnels became weapons and shields. Kiran led a group through one such tunnel, observing alien movements from above through small cracks. "They're focusing on the open areas," he whispered to Ms. Lena. "If we stay in the ruins, we can control the fight." Ms. Lena smiled faintly. "Exactly. Let's turn their strength into weakness." The resistance grew bolder. Humans coordinated attacks across the city, using signal flares, coded whistles, and prearranged traps. Every ambush taught them more about alien technology and behavior. They learned that alien shields only worked in formation, and isolated ships could be destroyed with focused attacks. Kiran spotted a large alien command ship hovering above the city center. Its size dwarfed everything around it, and its red glow seemed to pulse with power. Humans had never seen one that big before. "That's the command ship," Marco whispered. "If we can take it down, we disrupt their coordination and give ourselves a real chance." Planning an attack on the command ship was dangerous, almost suicidal. But humans had nothing to lose. Ms. Lena gathered volunteers, including Kiran, and laid out the plan. They would use a combination of explosives, coordinated strikes, and distraction tactics to isolate the ship and weaken its defenses. The attack began at dusk. Smoke and fire lit the city, casting long shadows across the battlefield. Humans moved silently, striking with precision and vanishing before the aliens could respond. Explosions echoed through the streets as traps detonated. The command ship's shields flickered under coordinated assault. Kiran felt fear and excitement mix in his chest. He had never been part of something so dangerous, so vital. He watched as older fighters climbed onto rooftops, firing at alien patrols, while others set explosives at key points. The humans were everywhere, a tide of determination against an enemy that had thought itself unstoppable. The command ship responded, firing beams that tore through buildings and streets. Humans dived for cover, but their planning had anticipated this. Smoke screens, decoy lights, and underground escape routes allowed them to avoid the worst of the attack. Finally, after what felt like hours, the command ship faltered. Explosives detonated near its engine, and coordinated human strikes hit its weak points. Sparks flew, metal bent, and the massive ship began to crash toward the city. The humans cheered, but there was no time to celebrate. The alien fleet above began retaliating fiercely, sending smaller ships to attack human positions. Fires spread, and buildings collapsed. Civilians ran for cover as humans tried to hold their ground. Kiran and Ms. Lena worked tirelessly, guiding children to safety and coordinating attacks with other fighters. Every small victory was hard-won. Every moment filled with danger. Humans were learning, adapting, and surviving against an enemy that had once seemed invincible. Amid the chaos, heroism shone brightest. Ordinary humans performed extraordinary acts. A teacher rescued a group of children from a collapsing building, carrying them one by one to safety. A young man risked his life to disable an alien patrol, saving dozens of civilians. Kiran himself helped coordinate ambushes, using his observations to predict alien movements. By nightfall, the city was a mix of fire, rubble, and scattered survivors. The command ship had fallen, and humans had proven that the aliens were not unbeatable. But the cost was high. Many fighters were dead or wounded, and the city lay in ruins. Yet, for the first time, humans felt a glimmer of hope. They had faced an enemy that had seemed unstoppable and had survived. They had learned, adapted, and struck back. Humanity was no longer just surviving. It was fighting back with strategy, courage, and unity. Kiran stood on a rooftop, looking over the battlefield. Smoke rose from the wreckage. Fires burned in the distance, and alien ships patrolled the sky. But he felt a surge of determination. Humans could fight. Humans could win. Ms. Lena joined him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Today, we showed them that Earth is not an easy target. But this war is far from over. We must be ready for whatever comes next. Kiran nodded, his eyes fixed on the horizon. We will be ready. We will fight. And we will survive no matter what. The day of total war had begun. Humans had stepped out of the shadows of fear and into the light of courage. They had discovered their strength, their unity, and their will to survive. And while the alien fleet still hovered above, watching and waiting, humanity had made its first stand. The battle had shown them one thing clearly. Earth's defenders would not surrender. They would fight with every ounce of strength, every bit of strategy, and every drop of courage. The war for survival had reached its fiercest stage, and the outcome was uncertain. But humanity had learned that it could never be underestimated. And in the ruins of the city, amid the fires and smoke, the human spirit burned brighter than ever. The city was quiet, but not peaceful. Fires still burned in scattered ruins, casting long, flickering shadows across streets once full of life. Alien ships still hovered above, their glowing red eyes searching. But something had changed. Humans no longer ran in fear. They stood, ready to fight to the last breath. Kiran climbed to the rooftop of a partially destroyed building, scanning the alien formations. He was older now in spirit, hardened by days of war and loss. Every strike, every ambush, every narrow escape had sharpened his mind. He had watched friends die, seen families torn apart, and yet his determination had only grown. Are you ready for this? Ms. Lena asked, joining him. Her hands were bandaged from burns and cuts, but her voice was steady. She had become a symbol of hope for the children and fighters alike. Kiran nodded. We have no choice. We either win today or lose everything. The humans had spent days planning this moment. They had learned every pattern of the alien fleet, every weakness in their ships, every flaw in their coordination. Small victories from the past had taught them strategy, patience, and precision. Now, they would combine all of it into one final assault, a strike designed to break the alien will and reclaim Earth. Below, teams of humans moved silently through the streets. They were armed with scavenged weapons, improvised explosives, and sheer determination. Civilians who had hidden before now fought alongside fighters. Engineers triggered traps with perfect timing, and children relayed messages from hidden vantage points. Every person had a role, and every role mattered. The aliens reacted as expected. They sent patrols to intercept, firing pulses of energy that tore through streets and walls. But humans had planned for this. Smoke screens, decoys, and sudden ambushes to the aliens off balance. One by one, patrols were destroyed, confused, or forced to retreat. Kiran observed a massive alien cruiser hovering near the city center. It was the heart of the invasion fleet, the command hub controlling the others. If they could take it down, the alien offensive would collapse. Marco, Ms. Lena whispered into her communicator. This is it. Everything we have leads to that ship. We strike together. Timing is everything. Kiran led a group through underground tunnels toward the ship. The air was thick with smoke and tension. Every step echoed with the memory of friends lost and lives destroyed. They had trained, observed, and prepared for this single moment. Above ground, human teams distracted the alien forces. Explosions ripped through the streets as decoy units drew the enemy away from the tunnel entrances. Every alien ship that moved was misled, leaving the path to the command cruiser vulnerable. Kiran's team emerged near the base of the cruiser. It was massive, its metal surface reflecting the fires of the city. Red lights glowed along its hull, scanning for life. Kiran's heart pounded, but his mind was clear. This was the final strike. On my mark, he whispered. 3, 2, 1 now. Explosives detonated along weak points previously observed by Kiran. Smoke, sparks, and metal shards flew as the cruiser shuddered violently. Human fighters rushed in, attacking isolated sections, striking where shields flickered. The cruiser reeled, caught off guard by the coordinated assault. Suddenly, alarms blared across the city. Alien drones swarmed the streets, desperate to protect their command ship. Humans faced them head-on, throwing every bit of skill, courage, and improvisation they had learned. Bullets, fire, and explosives tore through alien ranks. Civilians and fighters alike moved with precision, as if the city itself had become a single organism fighting back. Kiran spotted a massive energy cannon powering up on the cruiser. If fired, it could destroy half the city instantly. He shouted, "Focus on the energy core. Disable it." Teams converged on the core, dodging energy blasts and collapsing metal. Ms. Lena moved with them, placing charges and giving orders. Sweat, blood, and fear mixed with determination. Every second counted. Finally, the core detonated. A massive explosion erupted, shaking the city to its foundations. The command cruiser wobbled, sparks flying, and then crashed to the streets, breaking apart in a fiery heap. Alien formations above scattered in confusion, their communication disrupted, their strategy broken. Humans cheered, but the victory was not without loss. Many fighters lay injured or dead. Fires raged across the city, and the cost of this war was visible in every shattered building and every tear-streaked face. Kiran fell to his knees, exhausted, watching the alien fleet retreat. He thought of all the friends who would never see another sunrise. Ms. Lena placed a hand on his shoulder. "We won, Kiran. Humanity stood tall. We fought back and survived. But the cost is heavy." Kiran looked around. Children, teachers, engineers, and civilians were all celebrating quietly, tears streaming down faces. They had reclaimed their city, but their world had been changed forever. The aliens, defeated for now, retreated into the sky. Their ships flickered and vanished into the horizon. Humans had proven something the aliens had not expected. Earth and its people could fight with intelligence, courage, and relentless will. Even the most advanced technology could not crush the spirit of humanity. Kiran walked through the streets with Ms. Lena, helping the wounded, guiding survivors, and marking safe zones. Every step reminded him of the day the orphanage was bombed, the turning point that had ignited the human resistance. From that tragedy had come strategy, courage, and unity. Hours later, survivors gathered on higher ground, looking at the ruined city below. The fire still burned, but there was a sense of accomplishment. Humanity had survived the impossible. They had fought not just for survival, but for pride, hope, and a future. Kiran stood silently, staring at the horizon. He had grown in ways he could never have imagined. He had learned strategy, bravery, and leadership. He had lost friends, but gained courage. And he had discovered a truth that would stay with him forever. Humans were resilient, clever, and unstoppable when united. Ms. Lena joined him again. This is only the beginning. Kiran, we rebuilt our strength, learned our enemy, and survived total war. But humanity will always face challenges. What matters is that we never stop fighting, never stop learning, and never stop protecting each other. Kiran nodded. We will be ready for whatever comes next. Earth is ours, and we won't let anyone take it away. As night fell, humans lit fires across the city, signaling both survival and defiance. The smoke rose into the sky, a mark of human courage. The alien fleet had been beaten, but more threats would come. Yet humanity had proven that technology and might alone could not destroy the human spirit. In the heart of the city, Kiran walked past the ruins of the orphanage, now nothing more than a memory and ash. He knelt, touching the scorched earth, and whispered a promise. We will remember, we will rebuild, and we will rise stronger than before. Nothing can break us, not aliens, not war, not fear. We are human, and that is our greatest weapon. The survivors looked at each other, tired, wounded, but unbroken. They had faced death, chaos, and destruction, and emerged victorious. Humanity had fought back against total war, not just with weapons, but with intelligence, courage, and unity. Kiran glanced at Ms. Lena, who smiled faintly. They both knew the cost of victory, the sacrifices, the lives lost, and the scars that would remain. But the reward was clear. Earth was safe, and humanity had proven its indomitable spirit. As dawn broke over the city, smoke still rising from the ruins, the humans stood together. They had faced total war, endured unimaginable trials, and emerged victorious. The alien threat had been repelled, but more importantly, humanity had discovered its true strength, the unbreakable, unstoppable power of unity, courage, and hope. And in that moment, Kiran understood fully. The day the orphanage was bombed was not just a day of destruction. It was the day humanity discovered itself.